Hey Dev Tipster, you sure are beautiful. Let's make some code. This is the 6th hour in a series I'm calling Design and Code My Personal Website in 12 Hours. So that's kind of like halfway there. This is an intensely personal project, one that I've been waiting for a very long time to take on, and I am so glad that you're coming with me on this journey. Today we're going to be building the very first section on this webpage. This is called the Introduction or the Hero section. This sets the tone for everything else we'll be doing on this entire webpage, so I'm very excited about this. So here we go.
Okay, we're starting right where we left off in the last video. On the right here, I have this is the grid that we made in the last video, and on the left here is our code editor, and we're going to start editing code. So we're going to make, actually let's look at this columns file. This is these are the columns that you see here. So flex center is like the two that are together. Space around is the two that are floating in the center, each of their own column. We have column 2, which is 620 pixels wide, one single column that's 2 columns wide. That's one single container that spans the 2 columns in the center. And we have a more complicated nested column system here, which is column 50, which is 50%, not that there's 50 columns. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with these columns and start to build on them and actually flesh out the design. So let me show you the design that we're going to be making today. This is the design. So it's got this guy's face here, and it's got just some text. Travis is trying to grow up, but instead spends his time. And then the next thing that we'll be making is the continuation of that sentence, teaching everyone how to make websites on YouTube, and then it goes on and on and on like we designed earlier. So let's look at the columns here. We have 2 columns, and the first column is basically empty, and the second column is has the content in it, and the first paragraph in this content extends outside of the column stylistically, and that's cool. That's really fun. So let's do that. So let's actually just grab this about column, copy that, and I'm going to create, in the Jade files, I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to call it section about.jade. And then I also need to create a new, modules and layouts, modules. This doesn't really fit in either of these because these are a section, not a layout. A layout is the home in which we have like our grid and everything. So it's like the whole thing. Modules. Header is a section, not a module. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to reorganize this again. Just really quick here, though. New folder, and that will be called. Am I renaming the folder? Why is it that? Okay. 3 sections. Okay. 3 sections. And then I'll rename 3 layouts here to 4 layouts. Okay, a little bit more standard here. Now I'll take a header and move it by renaming it to 3 sections. Okay. Cool. So don't save. So now I have sections dash about, and then in my sections SAS, I'm going to create a file, a new file called about. I'll call it home about.sas. And then to finalize all this, we need to go back into our main.scss and kind of sort all those things out. So modules, 2modules has nothing in it yet, right? There's nothing in it. We need to put some modules in that later. But right now we want to change to 3 sections. There you go, header. And then the second one we want to add is home about.sass. I think that makes sense, right? So we have header taken care of and home about taken care of, and there's 3 sections. Oh, 4 layouts. That's important. 4 layouts. All right, let's do a quick test to make sure this is all working in home about sections. We'll say section dot about background red. Okay, yep, that's working. So our about section comes from right here. This is, remember we copied that from the columns file. Here is the about section, and when we looked at our design a few seconds ago, we noted that there was 2 columns. The first one is generally empty, and the second one has the content in it. So we'll go to the second column here and start generating our content. So we'll make this an H2, and we'll just say, you know, Travis is trying to grow up, comma, and then a paragraph, but instead spends his time, and then ellipsis. Now this is not a normal paragraph, it's obviously much bigger. It's going to be 36 points. So let's make that a lead, maybe a home dash lead. And that way I can use, because this style of these 36-point text is all the way through here. So I need to have a hook for that. And then H2 just kind of happens once on the page, so we don't really need a class for that. Okay, so so let's jump into our design. We haven't yet. That was the last thing we forgot to do. We didn't go into our index file and actually include the, let's see, it'll be right here in columns. We need to include this, this sections about. Sections about.html. Okay, now Jekyll will render and Browser Sync will reload that. There we go. Thank you, Jade. Oh, and let's open column again and let's get rid of all these names here, because I'm going to be using these classes later. That's why this looks like a duplicate and it has like both of the red, but I don't want to confuse myself. So I'm just going to get rid of all those class names. Okay, I think we've got it ready, so we're ready to like start building a design. Okay, let's look at the design then in the Photoshop. So let's spend some time actually with this background image. Our background image is going to be not red, but it's going to be a few things. So we're going to make a nested style declaration here, image, and it's going to have, I've already extracted the image here. So I've named it about-bg, and so we'll say URL image about-bg.jpg. Okay, cool. We need to position it. And we'll position it centered, horizontally, and then vertically we'll just put it at the bottom. There we go. And then I don't want it to repeat, but I don't really, the repeat doesn't really matter if you use background size, and that's what we want to do as cover. So we want to stretch it to fill the size in. Now it's not going to be repeating at all. Okay, so I got my kind of like creepy looking face poking out there. Next, let's open what's making everything pink here. That will be in my home Home Sass, right? Yeah, all these weird declarations to show you the colors. Get rid of these guys. Backgrounds. All right, now that's the background image. Let's spend some time with this text to get it where we want it. First we have the H2 here, and then this P home lead. So let's look at the H2. Now, the H2 is going to be contained in this about, and I'm not going to use this style as we can see in the design. I'm not going to use this style anywhere else in the design on the home page. So I will contain the declarations for that style inside of the about section. Let's do that right here. Was it H2? And let's grab the color. It's right here. Copy. Cool. And then for the color, let's see. What font size did I want it to be? Let's grab all this stuff. Font size is 60. And the family is actually going to be changed as well, because right now I have the default styling for this is to like use Open Sans, I think. Let's open base.sass, and right here we're using at the bottom, we defined we wanted to use Open Sans, but my design calls for a different font. It calls for Fira Sans. Now, fortunately, Fira Sans is is like an open kind of font, and you can find it on Google Fonts. Now, let me tell you what's up with Google Fonts. Open Fira Sans in Google Fonts. I'm just using, in the whole design, I actually just use the normal way of Fira, so I don't have to get the bolds, and I think I do want to grab the italics. I use an italic right here. Okay, so I'm going to grab normal and normal italic, and this link right here is going to link me directly to the @FontFace declarations. I don't want to include a link into my HTML page, I just want these font face declarations. So I'll copy these, and if I was being meticulous, I'd probably leave out, the extended Latins and the Greeks and the Cyrillic, and just get Latins. Actually, let's do that. So here we need to go into Tools and create a new file called fonts.sass. Nope, we want it to be SCSS. And the reason we want it to be SCSS is because these things, they're already in regular CSS notation style. So like they have their, the semicolons and the brackets. So we don't want to waste our time undoing all that. So we'll just use them. So copy that. This one is the italic version. And then we want to find the Latin for the normal version. Here we are. So now we're not importing like 8 fonts, we're just importing the one. Save that, and then go into our main Sass and import fonts. Okay, and then we go into our base and change this to Fira Sans. And let's take a look at that. I'm going to save here and see the font just updated right there, right in our browser. I love browser sync, it's awesome. Okay, now we have the right family, so we don't need to type that out. But we do want to do the weight. See, because it's at H2, it's naturally giving that bold weight. So we want to say weight is 400. We want it to have that same slimming look as up here. Nice, elegant it's a 400 regular weight, 60 pixels font size. Looks good. Looks good. Let's do the line height and tighten it up a little bit. For body text, I usually do like 1.6 line height, and for headlines, if I want them really tight, I'll probably do like just 1, and it'll crunch it up a little tighter. So that's what I'll do right here. Now there's a bunch of others, not just the about section, but a bunch of other sections where you're going to use the home lead class as well. So I want to find, I think it's in base. So base has a bunch of typography declarations. We have small and big and like all these kind of classes right here. I think this is a good space to put it. So I'll say home, actually nope, I shouldn't put it in here. This is, the best place to put this would be in layouts. TYVM. In the typography here, I'll say home lead. And home lead needs to be font size, is it 32? 36. 36 px. Okay, okay, good, good. And I'll give it that same line height actually because it's kind of a headline too. Of 1. A little tight, let's open that up a little bit. 1.1 is good. Okay, now let's get rid of this text here because we don't need that. In fact, let's just get rid of the whole column. And what that will do actually is we'll center this, it will center this headline in the center. And we don't want that, we want it to be pushed right. And so we're gonna have to make a new class in our in our home set. So let's go over to maybe columns. After the columns, we'll have like a helper class on our called push right. We're going to add margin left, and the margin left is going to be equal to it's going to be equal to a column which is 300 pixels plus the 2 margins on that one column, which is 10 pixels each, so that's 320 pixels, plus the width of the margin that we're removing or that we're supplanting from our first column, right? So it's going to be 330 pixels for the margin left. And let's add push right onto column 1. Yeah, push right onto column 1. All right, now let's take care of that, the H2 like being pulled out, because in our design we have this style of it coming outside of the margins just a little bit. Let's see how much we asked for, about 108. Okay, let's see what we got. We'll go to the H2, and how we're going to do this is we're going to add some margin onto the left, and we'll say negative 108 pixels. Right? Brilliant, brilliant. Now, in my design, I noticed that I have a little bit more. Well, at the top, I don't. At the top, it's a little bit tighter up here, but I have a lot more space below. So I want to identify that home lead that's in just this section about. We have a different home lead that takes care of the font size and the line height, but this one is going to be just adding structure to our about section, so we're going to put that home lead here. And let's see, add padding to the bottom. About 100? About 150? What do you think? A little bit more, right? 180. Okay. Okay. And I need to cinch up the top here a little bit more too. So I'll go into the H1 and I'll say margin top 0. Yeah. It looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. What do you guys think? I'm going to move the guides here. All right, now we need to make sure that it looks good when we have a smaller browser size going on. It all looks good, looks good, looks good, and then pop right here. We got the sidebar going to the top, but it still looks good. This section looks good. We're squeezing it in. Oh, right there. All right, see what happens here. We get to the point, and I think it's like 640, right, where our columns break, and we define that in our home, in our like our layouts, those columns. Watch what happens to my text up here when the columns break down here. It's not pretty. That. It's getting kind of hairy. Getting kind of hairy. Like it's even worse as this goes in. Yikes. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a media query to the H2. Let's just add a media query to the home, the bottom here. So at media max width equal to was it 640, right? That's when the break happens. And in there, we're going to take the section about, take the H2, and we're going to take the margin left and say auto. Margin right, and then your max. What is this? Oh, I was thinking it was that margin, the weird margin that we're doing to pull. But what's actually happening here is our. Remember when we did the pull right, push right here. You, buddy, let's do another push right here. Margin left auto. No, we don't want it to be auto, we want it to be 10. Yeah. That's what my problem was. Okay. Squeezing it in. Looks reasonable. Yeah, that's reasonable. What do you guys think? Is that reasonable? Looks reasonable to me. What if, let's say we got this on like a iPhone 6 Plus. Doesn't look too great. What if we did right here? Yeah, okay. What if we did right here a max width 300 pixels? So it'll collapse lower than 300 pixels, but yeah, see? And I want to do that to paragraph home lead 2. There we go. This is looking nice. Okay, so it's big, looks fine. Coming down, sidebar's gone, still looks good. That looks good. And yeah, looks good. Oh, okay, cool. All right, so we got a home section. Huh?
Fantastic. Now there is a little floating Travis head at the top of my webpage. I love it. Now for the end of the video where you mentally check out and I plug everything else I do. Chat me up on Twitter at DevTipsShow. Sometimes I share exclusive content there, but mostly I just misspell things. Listen to my sexy voice whisper sweet nothings in your ear on the podcast that I co-host. Here's a snippet from a recent episode. All you have to do, like in terms of design, literally, Forrudo, specifically, dude, all you got to do, right, is look at those principles of design
and change it.
Yeah, there's like 5, 10, maybe. I don't know. There's like 7 actually.
Yeah.
Scale, hierarchy, rhythm, color, balance, symmetry. You know, like just change something. One of those things. Pick one.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, symmetry. How do I change that?
Yeah.
And then see what happens.
Yeah.
An insight will come from that change sooner than looking around on Behance.
Yep.
You can find that podcast at travandlos.com. Sign up for my notes. I send a insightful or fun or just a dumb email to about 900 people every Thursday, about a third of whom read and enjoy it. Anyway, you can do that at travisnielsen.com/notes. Stop by patreon.com/devtips and support the show. In fact, this show was generously supported by these people. These are my patrons. Not only do they get the warm fuzzies, but they also get videos early and access to exclusive DevTips chat. Here is something someone said recently about their membership in the DevTips Patreon community. You can find out more about that at patreon.com/devtips. All right, that's it for the plugs. Hour 6.2 is coming up fast, so stay tuned for that and keep on hacking.